Yo, what's up?
Yo, what's good? If I could bet my whole life on one thing in the world, I'd never pass away. And that's your mama being the first one to comment every single video.
Yeah, she be ready.
Yeah.
That's definitely where I get it from. We was just backstage talking about being on time and how it irks us, and I definitely get it from her. So, what's up, mom, and everybody else? So, welcome to another press conference from Game Seven, where our mission is to distract you from your current story, dismantle your current belief systems, and most importantly, inspire you to change your mind, because a changed mind leads to a changed life. Um, Come on. Am I getting all that today? There we go.
There
All
you
right.
go. There you go.
So all of the places you can find us: Game Seven, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Game Seven Shop. Get your Game Seven apparel. But most importantly, our mission is to serve. So whenever y'all see us, please hit that share button so we can get in front of more people and help more people. So today, our special guest. Let's talk about it before we bring on. So first, our special guest, her name is Miss Porshia McCall. And before we bring her on, I want to give her her flowers. I used to teach with Portia, and we've maintained a relationship ever since we went our separate ways in terms of school. But I will always remember her, primarily, and I don't want this to sound selfish, but because she's one of the few people who actually understands me. Um, that's not many people understand me, especially like my mentality. I'm very relaxed, but I have very high standards, and I'm very, very ambitious. And that's not really the most unique mix for people in general, and especially for people who work in a school building. You know, so it's a good feeling to have somebody who relates to you as an educator, and as stated, more importantly, but just in general. And I'm considered a radical by most, but I'm sure that Portia has heard that a lot too. So I want to give her flowers and challenge her to always keep her mindset. There will always be haters, but remember that haters are only people who wish they were willing to do what you were willing to do. So let's welcome in Portia. What's up, Portia?
Hey, that was so nice. Look, I appreciate that. It reminds me of a poem. I love flowers. Anybody who knows me, people who are tuned in, like that was beautiful. I appreciate that. And I can also say the same thing about you. I feel like we definitely understand each other. We were just chopping it up and backstage, and I brought up my father, and I feel like I explained this to you before, probably in our last environment, but you remind me of myself, and it's so strange. So thank you for that. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no doubt. And I can see that too because we'll get to your father in a couple of minutes, but the words that people usually use to describe me are militant and disciplined. So I guess it makes sense. So let's jump right into it. So we're going to talk about education through the not necessarily the lens, but through the experiences of Portia's life. So Portia is an educator from PG County, Maryland. She teaches kids and she also teaches teachers, among some other things that we will get into shortly. So your father was a master sergeant in the Air Force, and he primarily raised you until you were 9. And your mom was a stay-at-home mother. So with that being said, what are your thoughts on the importance of parenting and education today?
Wow, this is an awesome question. We're going really deep, really fast. So yes, that's my background. As you can tell, I've learned inside of the house and outside. My father is an immaculate teacher. The way he does things is just phenomenal. I hope he's watching this, but I'll show him later. He's an immaculate educator. Like he teaches using his life. A base. Um, so he teaches using his life, same as my mother, stay at home mom. So when I think about parenting, like we parents are the first teachers, and I feel like children who are given to parents because it's a gift, children are a gift. They, if they're not taught by their parents first, they're coming. That's the educational gap right there. Like we create the gap at home. with emotions. I mean, everything, anything you could think of. Children needing everything. And that comes from their parents. And some parents are too busy. They may not know what to do. They probably weren't parented. So it's like we're still in this cycle until we figure out that parents are the number one for children. And we're like, we root for them. We're their champions. We have to be their champions coming out the womb. I start teaching my children as soon as they come out. So parenting is the first key. It's the first step. And I think it's so important to make sure that we focus on that and lean into it, because I even see a shift in the educational system where education is now the parent, and we as educators are now forced to learn social emotional learning. We got to give hugs, high fives, remember your birthday, cash app you this. Like, it's just Christmas, coats, bikes. Like, that's what parents supposed to do. So I could go on for days about it, but I think it is the key. And children who have great parents, they have the master key, because we get it from the parents first. So if you don't love on your kids and teach them first, they don't have a key, and now they're out in the world just messed up.
So let's stay there for a while, because you brought up some good things. So two things you said. You said parents are the first teachers.
Mhm.
And you said education is now the parent. And I 100% agree. And I think the situation, like, it's so hard to describe it if you never worked in a school, because it's way more crazy than what you would actually think. Like, I've had multiple calls, another one today during the pandemic. You guys are not helping me wake my son up. He
Mm.
won't get out of bed. He won't get on the computer. I just can't get him to do nothing, and y'all not helping me. I'm like, yo, I got one kid. He's 7 years old, and he on school. Which, you want me to come to your house, wake your 13-year-old son up, get him on the computer? I don't have to sit with my 7-year-old at the computer. That is a sign of you. But so much of that gets deflected our way, and especially to the teachers. Like, I've lost evaluation points every single year because I refuse to call parents. I've called one parent, and his name is Jalil Hackett, and you know Jalil.
Shout out to Lil.
In June 6th, he's fighting on the Mayweather card. There was something special about him, and not just him. But when I met his father at parent-teacher conferences, he let me know. He says, "Hey,
Yep.
my son is a boxer. He's going to be very, very wealthy, and we don't treat nothing like a game. If you ever catch him lacking, you call me." And I remembered that. And Jalil had like a B. He wasn't doing bad, but I saw him get distracted. I called his father that very next day. Jalil never made that same mistake. But I'm not calling you to tell you about your grades when you got a phone and the grade book is on your phone. Or I see your son playing every different video game. He can't get on the website and do his work, or it's my fault. So let's elaborate there on maybe on the responsibility being, maybe not misplaced is not the word, but the responsibility being placed on the school and the educators to be the parent. And is that fair to the parent, and is that fair to the educator?
Like, I'm sitting here cringing in my seat, just thinking about a 14, 13-year-old who needs help getting up. Like, what? I'm confused about that. It's on the parents, like, but it's so many layers to this. It's just so bad, because it's on the parents who are not doing it, but also their parents and then their parents, because this is not a one generation problem. Like, this stems back all the way back to slavery, for real. I think some people just never woke up and realized what was happening. And they feel most comfortable being, for lack of a better term, a slave, because that's what it is. Like, if you have to be told what to do, that's a problem. I have my son. How old is my son? He's 3. I don't take him to the bathroom. He's potty trained. He has to talk to me. You hungry? Say something. You got to pee? Get up. You need water? Talk to me. If you're not saying anything, I'm ignoring you, because I'm not helping you. because when you get old enough, you're gonna have to pull up your own pants. So let's do it together so that you know how to do it. So back to your question, because I'll go ramble. I'm somewhere else. It's not fair that the school system has to do it. But when you think about a community, technically it is our job, right? And I've grown to get to this point because when we were in that establishment together, I remember teaching 7th and 8th graders. They never came with pencils. And that really threw me off. I'm like, what do you mean you don't have a pencil? So that means that you're going to take a 0 today, right? And I couldn't get in my mind to give a person a pencil. I have to give you a pencil? Do you know how many pencils are on this floor? If you go into school, you can pick up 100 pencils. Go find a pencil, come back so I can know that you are serious, you know? So I used to take off points for that. But they were in middle school. So I guess it all depends, because now I'm sort of thinking, okay, I'll give you a pencil, but you got to give it back. You know what I mean? Like, it's not yours to keep. You can borrow a pencil, you could rent a pencil from me, and you got to give it back to me. And I say all that to say, because I remember as a child, my father didn't give us snacks. We had to buy snacks from him. So now as an adult, I don't eat a lot of snacks unless I really just want to eat some snacks. I don't buy snacks. I don't want my children to have snacks. People in the that's watching from home, you already know. A snack is fruit. It's sweet. It's not a regular dinner. It's in between your main courses. That's a snack. You don't need Cheetos. What is that? That's not helping you. So it's the school that we need to do it, but also the parents. Like, they have to be held accountable. I actually feel like some parents who are not doing their job, they should be arrested, honestly, because you're creating the problem and then we have to fix it. And then when something happens that we don't like, then you want to cry about it. But what did you do? Like, what investments did you put in place? So it's a lot. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. Just last term, I had to actually block well, it was a grandparent, but I had to actually block a grandparent because literally I always knew when it was it was time to put the grades in, because that certain student grandparent would call me every single day. Sometimes they would call me literally at like 10 p.m. I'm like, yo, what are you doing? Yeah, like your grandchild doesn't show up all the whole time. You blame it on everything else, and then all of a sudden I'm supposed to cater to you on the last, couple of days before grades are due. You want to know all the extra credit assignments you can do. You do the normal credit to get credit. You can't get credit if you don't do the first assignment. So I definitely can back you up on that, because in terms like that, we get pressed out when it's like, yo, like you had a whole couple of months and now you want to yell at me and say I don't know how to do my job because the person that you take care of doesn't have any initiative, and it's extremely frustrating. Like, why don't I have to block you? Like, you know what I mean? Not even give you to somebody else. I straight up blocked you. Like that's crazy out here.
Yes, it is crazy. Oh my gosh.
I think the key is that you hit on, Portia, though, is accountability. Because like KG said, that last week, all of a sudden the parent know what's going on. They know what's going on so good that they can tell me how to do my job. You feel me? They don't have a master's degree in education. They ain't been in school in 30 years, but all of a sudden they can tell me how to teach. And then, like, my reason for teaching is not for math. Like, I'm teaching young men and women. And I'm not sure if you follow like any of your former students on social media, especially the older ones that after they graduate, it's not looking good after they walk across that stage. It's looking scary. Like when I can't show up to work without my lesson. I'm not gonna last too long. I can't show up to an interview without my resume. And interviews start like at age 14, like not 30. You can have a resume at 14. I did. I didn't have professional experience, but I had my sports achievements, I had my community service, I had like my life achievements. And One hard thing for me is that I almost always forget is like my educational experience was very, very unique. From the age of 12, I'm now 31, and I'm going on 2 decades since I lived at home for a span of longer than like 2 months because I was gone at school. And I looked a couple of weeks ago. The school I went to, starting at age 13 or so, is now $68,000 a year, which is ridiculous. Like I was very, very blessed to go through the program to put me on there with tons and tons and tons of financial aid. And it's like, yo, you don't have a pencil? And that doesn't mean that person doesn't get taught. That doesn't mean that that person should get expelled. But they need to be held accountable. Like, yo, when you don't come to pencil, when you don't come to pencil, you got detention. You feel me? And it may just be 10 minutes, but you're going to be inconvenienced. And if you skip that 10-minute one, your next one's an hour. I bet you they'll start coming with pencils because they come in with the pickles in the bag and the Cheetos and the iPod, well, not iPod, and they phone and everything else except the thing that they need. And it's like primarily from like different cultures, they don't understand how big of a deal that is. You know, yes, it's literally it's just a pencil. Like it's just that. But you can't do your work. It's not just a grade. It's not just the education. And our job is to teach, you know? It still hurts my head now. Like it would be so many people. Like literally you can have a class of 30 and 4 will have a pencil. And then it's our fault if we don't got a pencil. You know? I don't want to get stuck on the pencils, but that just speaks to the frustrations of an educator because the things that are supposed to be basic are not basic. And then the last thing before we move on, it don't matter what kind of, in my opinion, I have a saying, it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility. You could be homeless living in a shelter. You know, if that's your situation, you know the importance of not being educated. You know the importance of not having skills. You know how hard life is when you don't have your stuff together or you don't have it together enough to have an emergency rainy day fund. So when you hit a bump, you was SOL. So you should absolutely pour into your kid. Because like some different coaches I work with, they blowing my email up. Email more or less is like free. If you got a phone, even if you got a state phone, you can email. And you can keep track of your sons and daughters' grades situations. All right. And there's another thing. It ran in my family until it ran into me. You know, because the only way we're going to break like these generational curses and such, one day we have to take accountability, understand that it's not fair, and we have to go 200% just to give 100%. You know, like being black in America is being dragged through hell, right? But if you stop, you're going to stay there. So you have to find a way to get through it, you know? And that's one thing I appreciate about you. Once again, that mentality, which I'm sure came from your father. And that's one of the big things that we're not talking about is the lack of fathers that our students have, primarily our African Americans. And it's not just the boys. Like that matters for girls too, especially when they get older and like relationships. You can tell a girl that didn't have a father because there's certain things about handling a man or something that only a man can teach you, just like only a woman with a woman. And you can tell the boys that were only raised around women. And that's another big thing that we have in our schools. So any responses from you two before we move on to the next question? Because we can talk about this all day.
Yeah, I was about to say you touched on a lot of things. And I knew that this would happen. Like we were just gonna talk because we can go from one thing to the next. They're all aligns. But so one thing about women and like the lack of fathers, being who I am, I'll be 29 this year. I was raised by my father, so I only know a strong black man, right? So this then puts me in situations because I know some of my peers, they weren't raised by men. And the way they approach things is a little different it's a lot different from me. So I even feel like I'm responsible in my community to teach women how to address men or how to respect yourself and love yourself, because that's one thing that I know for sure my father taught me. He made sure that I was always on point. And to this day, like he gives me pep talks, like, no, don't do that, or no, this situation, no, he's this, he's that. Like he gives me the game. And it's hardcore, but I'm built the way I am because of that. And I appreciate it. So I give back to my community. I connect with women to, I want to say, teach them how to be, I'm going to say, teach them to love themselves, right? Because once you love yourself, you can be whoever you want to be. Um, Now the my strategy is a little different because I know that women think differently, and especially if you weren't taught by your father, like the way for me to connect with women, I have to show them that I'm too could be like you, but I also know a better way. So I literally have to like come down and then come back up, just like in school, just like being a regular teacher, teaching math. You have to spiral the instructions. So I've told myself that I'm giving back by going back to the community and teaching the people who are here that look like me. Now, will I make money and all of that? Yeah, I'll be good. But as long as I give back to my community, that's all I want to do. And it's more than children, it's the parents. So it's like, if we're not teaching the parents, we're never going to teach the children because they're loyal. You know how our people are. We're very loyal. We're only going to learn from you if we trust you. So we can make more of a difference if we start connecting with the parents more. So very important.
Agreed. And it's dope that you said that because you are the second teacher we've had on, another black woman, and the piece of advice that she wanted to overemphasize before we signed off was to love yourself. And here
Yeah.
you are saying the same thing. Was you about to say something, KG?
No, you got it. I was literally about to say something about that, but you got it.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to the next one. So the next one we have is in this regards, have you had different experiences with different races and different cultures? Talking about parenting and education. Have you had different experiences with different races and different cultures?
Most definitely. And what's so beautiful about our last establishment, we had mixed cultures and races in the school. So I was able to see see what parenting looked like outside of a black household. And I've been overly impressed. Two of my uncles actually, Mr. Scott, he's married to a woman outside of our race. And the way they do things is just a little different. Um, the parents in the building, they care, like they come to parent teacher conferences. Their child acts different. They really want to know, they really want to learn it, and they really want the experiences and all the opportunities. They're not wasting pencils. Literally, a child will use that pencil until you can't write anymore, then get a new one. They don't want extra, they want what they need, and then use the tools to succeed. um, our culture is a little different. We are different. We're very wasteful. Um, we get things that we don't need. We don't know why we need it. We think we need it to fill some voids, and we're just trying to do everything outside of love ourselves and face the facts and hold ourselves accountable. Um, it's really distasteful, honestly. I feel really embarrassed, knowing that we have a lot more to learn as a culture, as a race, because we are the extinction of ourselves. Like we don't need to wait on people to, and hopefully not, God forbid, kill us. Like we're killing our minds anyway. We're killing our futures. Like we're killing our children, because we're not loving them. And when I say that, it's a play on words, but we don't love ourselves enough to love our children. We don't love ourselves enough to invest, to keep our bodies intact, to clean ourselves, to be on time, to really take education seriously. We just really don't care. Um, so yeah, it's really sad. It's embarrassing.
You out here. I can see why you and Malcolm got along so well. You out here spitting facts out here. So no, everything you said is 100% true. Um, I think especially in our culture, We have every right to, be upset about things that happened to us in the past and things like that. But I think you hit it on the head. Like it's not going to be up to someone to come save us, right? Like no one's here to save us. Like is it some things that we can't control? Of course, right? But the fact is, just like Malcolm said earlier, and we say a lot in Game 7, right? It may not be your fault, but it's your responsibility for sure. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of that mentality as a whole in our culture. I'm not saying no one has it, no, like that's not true. But as a whole society, I think that one thing that'll help us succeed is understanding like, yo, like no one's here to save us. Like, are things gonna change over time? Yes, hopefully. Has it changed? Yes, it has changed since history. But the facts of the matter is, like, we gotta go on and create those opportunities, create those legacies, educate our youth for the future on our own, because at the end of the day, it's our responsibility and it's our job. And unfortunately, not a lot of people are willing to do that, because people oftentimes focus on the external world rather than the internal. And instead of pouring into themselves, they're just pouring out and masking a lot of these pains because they want to get this value of basically what they look like in public for people who don't care. And I can say that from experiences when I was younger. I definitely fell into that trap. And once you get out of that and move out of that space, it forces you to think different. Like this month was the first time in like 4 or 5 years I bought a new pair of sneakers, right? You know what I'm saying? And like I've been rocking the same sneaks and growing up, like, or when I was a teenager in college, like I was sick. Like if my sneaker had a scuff on it, I'm ready to scrap. So you know what I mean. So it's definitely a cultural thing, and once we figure out collectively that it starts with us, then I think we can definitely see the change in the future.
Yes, that's facts. These shoes, I'm telling you. I mean, I've learned, you know, within the last few months, I've learned a way to profit off of that. But at the same time, if you meet my father, like that's all I'm gonna say. You just meet him because I know this one pair of shoes he has. It's a white pair of shoes. They're really fat and just the ugliest shoes ever. But he loves those shoes, and he'll wear them, and he's just so confident. I'm just like, you're right. He says he's the best that ever did it, and he is because he don't have to wear all that stuff, and he's still the most manliest man I've ever met. And like he's awesome, and I always will compare every man to him before I make a decision. Generally anyway, but that's another piece of information because I make mistakes sometimes. But needless to say, we have to do better. But this type of situation, this press conference, I think this is awesome. It needs to be pushed into schools because a lot of people are profiting off of our children, bringing programs in that just don't connect to what needs to happen. But they making money, so we definitely have to show up for our community much better. And I think this is a great way to do it.
So we appreciate that. And I think you said something very powerful that once again is a Malcolm and Portia kind of statement. But we are our own extinction. On the podcast last week or 2 weeks ago, we talked about the death penalty, not the actual death penalty from the judicial system, but how over 60% of our deaths, primarily black men, are all from us between uh, tobacco, drugs, alcohol, inactivity, laziness, poor health. But number one for ages 1 through 19 and ages 19 through 44 is gun violence. That's probably like that's more than what I said. A good 70% or so. That's how we leave. That's how we leave this earth. It's not like other things. We are literally killing each other and killing ourselves. And once again, so much of that starts in the school system. Like I'll say it, like the kid that's going to go to jail. The kid that's going to have a hard life.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that our system, once again, is making it worse. It's not their responsibility, but like just their logic is backwards. So now, like how a suspension is illegal, right? Like literally, suspension is like illegal.
Right.
And I've seen the 8th grade girl punch a 70-year-old girl in the face on camera on Friday. She got locked up, escorted out of school in handcuffs. She was in school on Monday. Right? But the data says that the more suspension days a kid has, the more likely he or she is to be incarcerated later. Not realizing that by keeping them in school, it's teaching them that he or she can do whatever they want to do. Oh, I can punch old ladies in the face. I'm like that now. Everybody's talking about me. I got locked up. I came back. Now I got all the hallway credit now. Oh yeah, I did my little 9 days. Now it's at 10 days. They got to sign off on downtown, right? And that's not going to happen. So it's teaching them even more that they can do what they want. And they walk across that stage and they get out there. I know more kids that I had a relationship with. It's not all, but primarily African American kids. I know more African American kids that got killed than that made it through college and got a job. That's ridiculous. And I've been in this for eight years now, right? So that's 900 to 1,200 kids. That's not the world's population, but I believe that. But that's also going to have to be something that comes from us, because like that's a radical thing. I'm sure it's some white teachers and some white educators that want to say, well, these black people gotta get it together for themselves, bro. We brought in all these resources and they not using them, but they can't say that, And I don't really think they should either, without there being some kind of intentional kind of conversation with all the coaches involved, and then the process get rolled out in XYZ. But we know that's not happening. But from my experiences with the different cultures, number one, the Hispanic cultures, from my experience, they never really asked me about the academics. It was all about discipline. Is he or she showing up on time? Are they behaving? Are they listening? Cool, we out. The Caucasian families, I talk to them all the time. They blowing up the emails. They're crying about a 92 instead of a 96. And I'm not being sarcastic and I'm not being stereotypical. This is what's been done in education. And I've taught all the way, like where Jeff Bezos' crib in DC, I taught up there at the Lowell School, which is it's basically like a prep school, K through 8. And I've taught at DC Met with kids who was about to go to prison, age 21, still in high school. So I've taught the entire gambit. But I've noticed when it comes to us, collectively speaking, and this is not all of us, like, because some of us, we do good. Just we're oblivious, and it has nothing to do with poverty. It's all about the morals, values, and principles that you teach your son or daughter. I've had some amazing students who had nowhere to go when they left. They were sleeping in the car. They were sleeping in the shelter. They didn't know how they was going to make it back. But every single day when they were able to make it, they was all business. They knew how to behave. They was very, very respectful. They may not have been a straight A student, but they had straight A morals, values, and principles, right? And then I've had some other students who come from high income, very good background, same thing, morals, values, and principles. But a lot of us that struggle, we don't have those morals, values, and principles, and we expect the schools to teach us that. School teaches you math, science, reading, writing, gym, art, lunch, see you later. That's what we teach. We don't even know the kids good enough to be able to teach them what needs to be taught, because we're getting a lot of children in our classroom as opposed to a lot of students in our classroom. You have to prepare your son or daughter to know how to learn when they come in. So that would be my experience. Thank y'all for sharing y'all's about the different coaches that we work with. So, moving on to the next one. You graduated the top 5% from your neighborhood school with a cosmetology license. And I made sure I put neighborhood school in there because this is not a black thing, but there's like an American thing that in order to be educated, you got to go to like private school. You got to go away. Like you got to get away from the hood or your immediate surroundings unless you live in like Beverly Hills where you can just go down the street and it's automatically a nice school. But you graduated the top 5% from your neighborhood school with a cosmetology license. So with that being said, would you do anything different if you can go back to senior year and graduate again? Would you do anything different?
Um, yes, but I would go back to junior year because I decided to be a teacher's aide that year. I was being lazy when I should have took math junior year and senior year. So that's one thing I would do. I probably would play sports too because I could have got a full ride playing sports. Either I probably would have ran track. That's what it would have been. I can play basketball, but I'm really not interested. I wanted to play football, but I'm a girl, so it's not fair. So yeah, I would have ran track and took math in 11th grade and also 12th grade. Mhm.
With your mentality, I'm sure you would have been a beast on the field or the court or whatever you decided to participate in. Um, so I thought you were gonna say something different, to be honest,
What?
especially knowing the woman that you turned out to be. So did you use your cosmetology license in college?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you do with it?
So I've been styling hair since high school. So I just was doing hair. So I had a business on the side when I went to college, and then so I traveled to school. So I didn't live there. I had my own place, and I just used my place as my salon.
Okay.
Made money on the side. Went to school. Yeah, I lived by myself since I was what? Was I 19? I think I was 19. Yeah. So yep, I worked my way through. But no, what did you think I was gonna say differently? I'm interested.
That you didn't say that. I didn't. I
Oh,
was going to expect you to lean more on including your entrepreneurial ventures heavier alongside your education.
well, I think what I did was a good mix. I've always been an entrepreneur, and I think I went really hard, like I did. So, like any more than that, I probably wouldn't have been able to like really focus on school.
Mm.
Um, I didn't go into a salon to work. I worked from my own place, which was great. I saved money on booth rent. Um, yeah, I like how I did it actually. I
Mm.
probably wouldn't have been in a relationship. That's one thing I would have done differently. Like I was thinking about marriage in
Yeah,
senior year. So um I
we're gonna
probably
get there.
I wouldn't have been thinking that way.
Okay. All right, we're gonna get there. All right. So next one, to continue with that. So, what's your advice to kids who are graduating high school next year? So it's ironic you said junior year. So kids who are currently juniors and they have senior year coming up next year. What's your advice to them?
Oh, I would try to get an internship somewhere. It can happen like now. Obviously I will be working too. So if you don't have a job, like you need a job, get your resume done. Um think about your plan, like write a 5 year plan for yourself. The money that you're spending on clothes and shoes and stuff, don't spend it. Don't buy out food. Cook, learn how to cook. Don't buy a car. Just ride the metro if you can. Go to community college first so you can figure out what you want to do and work at the same time. Try not to have children. Like don't do that to yourself. And I want to expand on that because children are great. They're awesome. But you have to be ready to be a full time teacher to your child. And you're still a child. So Wait until you're at least 25, I would say. Um, Try not to rent an apartment. Like, don't do that. Just save your money for a down payment on a house. Um, don't get credit cards unless you have a job that's like stable, and put your payments on auto pay. Always pay more on your credit card bill, at least $20, 20 or 30. If you could do 50, do that. Um, have fun. Like, don't try to settle down yet. Like, trying to be married unless you're married. Like, if you're in a relationship, you have a boyfriend, you're or girlfriend, you're really single. Like, that's your friend. It's not. That's not a real serious thing yet. Like, you gotta wait until you're married to really settle down, have children. Um, Actually go to school and apply for scholarships. Like, you want somebody else to pay for your schooling. Like, don't take loans out if you don't have to. Unless you're going to be a teacher, like, they'll help you pay it back. Read books, less TV. Stop. Don't be outside, hanging outside, wasting time. Literally found a job now over the summer. Um, you can work at a barbershop if they're open. I don't know if they're open. Sweeping hair, like, cut the grass, get outside and like learn how to take care of the yard. Get a plant. So just take care of yourself in other ways. Like, don't use social media to like drive your everyday unless you're making money in a positive way, like the stock market or something like that. Don't get caught up online because that's a distraction, just like TV. It's a distraction. You should be reading one book a month at least, and find yourself a mentor. Talk to your mentor. I have mentors, and I'll be 29 with 3 kids. Still need mentors, and try to forgive your parents. That's another key thing. Because if you're still stuck in this, oh, my parents didn't do this, you're going to be stuck for a very long time. So just start to talk to them and try to understand what happened. And, think about ways that you can be a better parent when it's time. Not right now, but when it's time. That's it.
Free game right there. Free game. You rolled them out like you studied for that one. you know, um, a great response. But I would tell them, like, one thing that took me a long time to understand besides the obvious was the importance of money. Like, I was one, since I always dominated school, like, easily, and like, honors was nothing. It was very very easy. I just assumed that my educational success was going to lead me to some amazing job to where I can make 6 figures and I'll be able to just keep working and take care of my life. Right? I did all those things, but once you start bringing that bread in, you notice that that's really nothing. Like, that's why, like, I have such a totally different grip and two perspectives on, like, poverty. Like, number one, like, that's hard. I like the average, like, the poverty numbers, like under 40,000, 30,000, something like that. I have no idea how those people survive. So I definitely have a bigger spot in my heart for people who are experiencing that or who have experienced that. But on the other side, I have no idea how they're willing to stay there. Like, I know life has circumstances, 100%, and it doesn't change when you want it to change. But you know a person that's hungry and is doing everything in their power to get out of that predicament. And a lot of people, they're like the Walking Dead, like they're just waiting for their funeral to jump in the ground. Like they gave up already. You know, but I would challenge those juniors to find a way to make bread by being you. So get on the social media. Everybody's on it, but be on the other side of it, right? Especially, like, I don't like how a lot of, and I only know my experience, but a lot of the extracurricular, like personal development, social emotional learning kind of activities and programs are geared towards the students at the bottom. And half of them ain't doing nothing anyway, right? But there's very, very few programs that are not purely academic, for the kids that are doing well academically, right? Like we should be sending, if it was up to me, like, all right, you're going to school, and like how Portia, you went with a cosmetology license, yo, get you a barber license. Especially if you go to an HBCU, yo, you trap it out Monday through Friday. You can even hit the club on Saturday. Everybody looking sweet because of you. You know, yo, you save half of your bread, and once you get sweet, you can start taxing them. Find out what the rate is across the street. Now a haircut like $30. Yo, I'm gonna charge you a dub, right? That's still a lot for a haircut in the dorm, right? All right. So then your first 225, right? I want you to go down whatever state you in, go get you an LLC, right? And then your new clippers come February next year, the government gonna pay you back for that, right? And by the time you a junior or a senior, you gonna be killing the game, and you'll have your own business in line to where you don't have to just accept the job. Like that's one of my biggest things that I don't necessarily think I regret, but it's on my mind as I look back on my life, was the job I accepted out of school, right? Because it was like it wasn't the only one I had, but it was the only one like in my mind, like at my level that I would have accepted, but I would have rather taken my time more to get something that more so fit my personality. But I did not use my skills to have my own thing going on that I could have developed through time. Like I DJ'd here and there through school, but there was no thing that I really took seriously, because I believe that in college, unless you're like in grad school to be a doctor or a lawyer or something, the thing you do the least is learn academically. The thing you do the most is learn socially. Like I developed so much more as a man in school than I did as a student. Like everything I learned as a man academically, you don't really learn that until you get to work. Everything you learn at school really just gets you the interview, and then you got to do the work. It's like, damn, I'm in school all over again, you know. So I would definitely overemphasize, find a way to make money and find a way to learn about money, you know, especially investing. Like poor people save. Everybody saves for a rainy day, but beyond that, only poor people save. Like these millionaires and billionaires, they do not have millions and billions in their account. In their investment accounts and what they're doing, yeah, but like their savings account, no. Like that's only if they lose their business, their divorce money, or whatever they think is their rainy day money. You know, so I would challenge them to think bigger than just school, because I got the rug pulled from under me by fully committing to school. And I'm not saying to cut school short, but don't have a perspective like me to where you thought school was going to save you, because it ain't. You know, because it's millions, if not billions, of honor students out there who are just as intelligent as you and got the right numbers on the paper just like you. So I would tell them, like, be a whole person. Don't just be a student. You know, don't just be a student.
Yeah, that's huge, because growing up, a lot of us, you know, that's your only responsibility, is to be a student. And a lot of us, you know, I would say to those students is expose yourself, right? Expose yourself to different things. Just like you said, Malcolm, our high school experience was a lot different than most students. So we were actually able to do things that weren't, you know, done by people that look like us where we're from, right? So the more exposure you have, you know, and you put into it, that the more you can actually find out, okay, maybe I'm interested in this. Expose yourself to it. It's not what I really thought it was. You know, that's the time you have when you're in high school, or your college days, or even your younger 20 days. Those are the times where you have the ability to go expose yourself, do things that you didn't try before, especially and don't get wrapped up in what society thinks you're supposed to be. That would be my number one thing. Like, it's no right or wrong way of who you should be. Like, you're made up of, you know, all the instances, the experiences in your life. That's who you are, right? someone on the TV could be someone else, or someone in your friend group could be someone else, right? But be true to who you are. Don't go do something when you know you're not morally tied into it. You're just going to create a battle within yourself that is going to constantly make yourself fight yourself over and over and over again. So for the people out here, the young juniors, and people younger than that, moving to the next grade, just be yourself. Don't be afraid to go against the grain. You don't have to fit in with everyone, right? And the older you get, you realize like you're not going to have a million friends, right? When you're younger, you tend to want, I want this friend, I want this friend. Like you put your value when you're younger on what externally people perceive you of, or how many friends you have. But as you get older, that group dwindles down, right? And now you actually find people who are cut just like you and things like that. So value who on being you, whatever that looks like, and don't chase the money, right? Like the money's gonna come, right? I don't want people to say I'm not telling people not to go get the money, right? But as Malcolm was saying, when you go to school, you're successful. You think all of a sudden you get a couple of offers from places that may not align with you, and I'm gonna just take this because the money's good, right? But then you're gonna be miserable, right? Because you're not doing something that is aligned with yourself, right? So for me personally, I'd rather take a position that's a little less if I'm doing something that I enjoy, rather than take a position where I'm getting paid way more than the other spot, but I know I'm be miserable at doing what I'm doing. So don't just follow the money, and like obviously what you're gonna do, like the money's gonna come, right? You just got to put in the back work, and that's gonna show up on the other side.
Facts. You gonna say something, Portia?
I want to say so many things, but I agree with everything you all said. I hope the children are watching and listening. Even some adults need to hear this. This is not just for children. Everybody has an inner child. So if this message is for you, please take it, because there is a lot of wisdom on this call. And I want to say a lot more, but I'll be back at another time, I guess, because time is it. But definitely be yourself. And when people look for you, they're looking for that person or that energy that sticks out. So if you're trying to be like everybody else, you already losing. You lost. Like you're lost in the sauce. So you need to find your way out, focus on yourself, love yourself, get to know yourself, try new things. If you don't like it, stop. Because you create your own destiny, you create everything. You can create a pathway to more money because it'll follow you if you're in alignment with your highest self.
100%. And I'll say, whatever you do start after high school, finish it. Because the people I know who are like our age who are struggling, a lot of them went to school and they never finished. And I don't mean that you needed to go back to get a degree, but you better go to plumbing school and get certified, or go to audio engineering school, or some kind of education. You must finish, because if you're not educated, that means you didn't develop the skills necessary to generate any kind of income as an adult. And you're gonna have a hard life, and you're gonna be kicking yourself in the behind your whole life, talking about that I wish I finished. But you went to PG Community College, Bowie State, Concordia University of Portland, and you learned that degrees are equivalent to debt. But it's what people wanted to see, and the only way for people to begin listening to your perspective. All right, so degrees are equivalent to debt. What does that mean? What made you say that?
It just as that. I have so much debt because of school, but I know that it'll be paid off because I put in the work. But I just think this is set up, and it's great though. If you want to go, you want to experience that, and you're a learner. Like I'm a learner, so I go to school because I just enjoy learning. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a plan to pay it off, like you're in debt. and now you have to deal with that, and that's too much, you know. Um, just don't get lost in the sauce, because I don't want to tell y'all not to go to school, because I think it's good. Like if you haven't established your morals, values, that discipline in high school by graduation, I think that college could also help you become a better person. Um, but don't lose yourself in it, and understand how money works and how debt works. Um, always be business minded. Like I see, as I said, people started listening to me because I had degrees. When I didn't have my master's, it's like, oh, who is she? I'm like, okay, y'all want to see a master's? Okay, I'll get a master's. That's easy. Got that, and got all of my degrees when I was pregnant with children. So it's like, okay, this is easy. Let me get this real quick so you can listen to me. I have this behind my name, so now you're listening. And this next little thing I'm working on, I'm doing it just so people can listen. But don't let the degree get to your head, because it's a lot of people with degrees that are not too sharp. So understand what a degree does, and use it to your advantage. But debt is not your friend unless it's good debt. But I mean, it's all in the system anyway, so whatever. It's how you see it. I just see some stuff is good debt. Like education could be good debt if you have a plan to pay it off or somebody else pays it off. That's the goal.
Yeah. And I think the key here is to understand what debt is. Like, debt is not bad. Debt is only bad if you mismanage it, right? Like I see my loans every month and I don't like it, you know. But the amount of income that my degrees help me generate, even taking away those monthly costs, is far higher than I would be if I was the same kind of dude without those degrees, without that debt, right? So there's a process that a lot of wealthy people use. They take debt to make more money. Like that's why the housing market, primarily, I learned recently, one of the big reasons why the housing market is going absolutely nuts right now is because people took debt, right? So a lot of people who could pay their mortgages have not been paying their mortgages because of the law saying you can keep your crib right now. You don't have to pay your mortgage. So they've been paying themselves at 1800, 1900, 2200. They've been taking it, putting it in their own personal account. And now it's about to expire. Don't even worry about the federal law. It doesn't expire until your state says it expires. Then you have to start paying it again. But now you got 20 G's over here to go get an investment property and make some bread back. Or um, you get into a hard spot in your life and you learn how to trade stocks, right? You can file a hardship, right? Or borrow money against your 401k, right? And take that out and be in the hole, hypothetically, for an easy number, you down 10 G's. But if you can take that 10 G's back and make 15, 20, you went in debt to make more money. You did not go in debt to go to the DR with everybody else. You did not go in debt to hit the clubs when they open back up and to get a bottle. You did not go in debt to be on Nike.com at 12:01 to spend $257 on some sneakers, right? You went in debt to buy more assets, right? People just think because I owe, it's a bad thing, right? The wealthy people, they call that leverage, right?
Yes.
They still use OPM, other people's
Other
money.
people's money. Yes.
So
Facts.
we have to change our relationship with debt. So I think we just need to overemphasize like, yo, college is not bad, but it is bad if you're not going to take advantage of the opportunity, right? It may cost you whatever it costs now, 200 G's, right? But over the average lifespan now is about 70 years, not for a black man, but for the American as a collective. Maybe we stop killing each other and ourselves, our average age will increase exponentially. But you got another 50 years to make that 200 back. Even if you just get a job, right? Just get a regular job your whole life, you'll make it back, as opposed to making minimum wage doing whatever you can do without your degree, right? So whoever watches this now or in the future, don't get it twisted. And I'm sure this was not Porshia what she was saying at all, but I know what people see when they see debt. Oh, well, Game 7 said debt, no college. Game 7 said debt no college if you're not going to use it, if you're not going to take advantage of it. If you're the type you want to do cosmetology, go into debt to get funding for a cosmetology school. You come out, you get in a salon temporarily while you're still educating yourself, learn the game, you get your own salon, flip that money over. Or you become a barber, or you become a personal trainer, you become a DJ, you become a stylist, or whatever you become. Make sure you take your investment and give it some return. Don't spend it on leisurely activities to go on a 5-day vacation that costs you a year's worth of supplies, or to buy some Jordans and other such things. So I agree. Degrees are definitely the equivalent to debt, but then also work the system. And contrary to belief, there are tons of resources in these Title I schools. Like if you can eat, sleep, and breathe and show up every day, you can graduate from a Title I school with a scholarship. Like they just throw the money away. They come to lunch and give them away. Like, yo, you got a 2.0? You never been suspended? Boom, come to Frostburg right now. Right? We'll pay 80% of your tuition. But there's so many resources, but not a lot of resourcefulness. So if you're gonna go to college and get that debt, do your thing, but do not waste the opportunity. Okay? So your professional experience taught you that people care too much about labels and less about actual knowledge. Y'all kind of already touched on this a little bit. But what experiences led you to that conclusion to say that people cared more about labels than they cared about actual knowledge?
Well, I used to work at Nordstrom. So I started at Nordstrom straight out of high school. And it's funny how I landed that job. Like I graduated, had my cookout, and then I didn't have a job. And I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Like I felt so bad. So, and I'm gonna get to why I said that, but each day for like a month, I filled out 3 applications a day. My parents didn't tell me to do it. They just wanted me to graduate high school. They didn't really see, not that they didn't see anything else. They didn't go to college. So I'm like the first child in my family to graduate from college and to also receive my master's. But I was hard on myself and I applied to 3 jobs a day and it was really tight. I couldn't find a job until December, and I was a seasonal cashier at Nordstrom. Obviously, my job would be up after the holidays, so I was trying my best to like stay on the team. So I ended up getting promoted as a cashier, and then I was promoted to sales, and from then I was promoted to assistant manager, and I was like 18. So I was managing people twice my age. This was people's careers, like they literally made money and paid mortgages at this job. So it's a lot of money you can make there, but it's a lot of labels. And as I said, my father wears thick white shoes. Like he don't care about no labels. I didn't ever care about labels. I'm still the same way to this day. I like certain things, but I don't really care for it. So I'm the assistant manager, and I'm not dressing with all these flashy labels. I don't really care about my shoes. If it works, I wear some flats. I look presentable. I'm professional. I should be able to do my job. But because I wasn't flashy, when I'm trying to get to department manager because I want to win, right? I couldn't get it. Like I didn't fit the mold. I didn't fit the image of a department manager because I wasn't flashy. And at that time, I was wearing my natural hair, had probably had puffs and wearing different styles like that. And this was back in 2010. So it wasn't really acceptable to have natural hair professionally. And it's funny that this was just like 11 years ago, but now it's like, oh, okay, natural hair is great. But I went into a store in Virginia, Nordstrom, like bougie store where we put shoes on customers. They had personal stylists, like people in there making over 100K selling shoes and bags. They didn't want a black girl with natural hair. That wasn't the thing. Like you had to get a silk press and wear Fendi and all of these different designers. And I'm like, I'm not paying that. No, I'm trying to get a house. That's what I was thinking. But women who cared about the price tags and the name brand, they got to department manager faster, and they were typically Caucasian. I'm like, wow, like this is really systematic racism right here. Like I'm experiencing this, and what do I say? Like it's people that look like me have already accepted this. So why should I even fight? I don't want to fight. So I just got out of it. And then started teaching, got into education. But it was sad just to see it happening before my eyes and me being like a not a product of it, but I'm in it. Because I'm not a product of anything like that. Um, I'm not willing to subside to your idea of me. Like I'm going to be who I am. um I am a rebel, and it is what it is. If you don't like it, I mean, I'll get another job. It's just a job. That wasn't anything that I really cared about. So yep.
Yeah. Thank you. I know that retail life, man, ain't no fun. But does this, and I guess we kind of answered this already, but does this misapplication of care have a detrimental effect on students in the public education system, primarily African American students?
Because most definitely, that's just one example, but labels, like our children are so focused on stuff that don't matter, depreciating at, and it's not even an asset, depreciating things. Like they don't see the value in themselves, so they have to dress with all of this crap on. I don't really care about. It's cute, but it's not helping you do anything. um and it's so deep because it's with the parents. So it's like I'm really fearful of um what our future looks like, because our children really don't understand care at all. What is care? They have no idea. um and the system is actually defining that word for them, so they have to be taught from people that may not have their best interests. What is it like to be cared for? And what's interesting is, working in incarcerations, the students didn't want to leave. So I worked at DYRS. What is it? Um, Forget the place. YC, yeah. Worked there, and shout out to them because they do a great job, and I've really appreciated working there. But the children didn't want to leave. Like they felt like they were cared for. They had all of their meals. They had warm blankets, socks, shoes. They felt safe. They had fish fry Fridays, and I'm just like, wow, like they really eating in here. They have games. Like they talk to the kids. They have mentorship. Like they meet celebrities. Like it's really a nice place for them. They get to play basketball. It's structured. The things that you should have at home, they are provided, but it's in jail. And it's just not fair. It's just like, wow, like this is care for our children. And if they feel like detention is where they receive care, they're doing things on purpose to get there. And that's what it turned into. So it's really sad.
That's powerful right there. That's next level. Just like how they say that in the city, a lot of the petty crimes skyrocket when it gets cold because people just want somewhere to go to sleep and somewhere to eat. Um, that's tough. That's tough. But you also kind of touched on this already. You made a lot of adult decisions at a very young age, like getting married at age 20 and buying a home at age 26. And with that being said, what advice would you give to recent college graduates in regards to marriage and purchasing a home? Like two of the major boxes to check off on the American dream. What would you say?
This is a great question. As soon as you graduate college, buy a house. So I accept that. That's like a very powerful thing to do. I wish I would have done it. I've rented and I wasted so much money. I feel so bad thinking about all the thousands of dollars I wasted. Um, but in regards to marriage, that is a big decision that I made. So if you're just graduating college, you'll be older than me getting married. So if that's where you are and you understand it, you understand what goes into a marriage and how to sustain one, and you know yourself, you love yourself, you have a plan for yourself, you've decided on what you want from a partner and what you need, then I say go for it. I believe in marriage. Um, right now, I'm not married, and without being married, technically you're single. So if you're not married yet, you're single. So as a college graduate, you have to decide. You know, if you're ready to take that step, know that you're with that person. You do everything with the person. Trust that person. Make a decision that you won't regret in 10 years. However, if you're not married and you're thinking about it, you got to know what you're getting yourself into. Marriage is like a business, and I think it's one of the best businesses to be in, actually, because technically you have two socials now. Okay, and this is free game. I'm just gonna tell y'all, you have two socials, and you can buy two houses, and you can get, write off a lot more things. Your tax bracket is higher, so you can get the free government money when they send it, if you don't make that much, obviously. And it'll teach you about yourself. So, like, if you had a hard childhood, or if it was okay, I guess, getting married would teach you about yourself because you're going to be looking at yourself more. Um, in a marriage, you see you, like your partner is a reflection of you. It's just now y'all married and y'all have to work together based off of the law. Um, but if you're ready to see yourself get married, if you're ready to settle down and like start your legacy, get married. Um, if you're not ready for that, if you're not ready to be annoyed at a person every day or see some things that you don't really like or look at yourself, don't even get married because it's not a game. Um, but people can use it in ways that are beneficial, and you have to know what you want out of it, because people get married for two things: is for love or for money, and you have to know which side you're on. And hopefully it's for both things, but sometimes it may not be that. But you want to just make sure you know what you want out of life before you make a decision like that. um, I was young, 20. I did it, but I learned a lot, and I appreciate my marriage, my first marriage, because of that. It grew me up in so many different ways. It taught me how to be a mother, how to be a wife, because I didn't know how to be that. Even though I had my father in my life, you know, it's different when you're in a relationship with somebody. But it also teaches you your value and your worth if you don't have it already. Because I don't believe in dating for. I'm gonna be very honest. I don't believe dating that you should be dating for longer than 6 months. Like, men know, and I'm speaking of women right now. Men know when they meet you if you could be his wife or not. If they're like taking their time to marry you, they still trying to play and still trying to see what's out there. And you have to value yourself higher than that. Um, so just be mindful about what you want. Uh-oh. Sorry, I'm getting a cold. I apologize. Yeah, you just have to know what you want out of it. Oh, I know I probably touched on a lot of things, but marriage is a really deep um, decision, and it could make or break you. So if you've been married, you already know what I'm talking about. If not, you're probably curious, but just be ready for the battle, because that's what it is. I think you should wear boots at your wedding instead of these fancy clothes. It's not that. It's literally battling yourself. And if you make it to the other side and have a true understanding of how beautiful that connection could be, then it'll work in your favor. But if not, you can be lost in it. And just like lost in debt or lost in college or lost in these labels, it's the same thing. It's a system, all of which should be connecting you back to yourself. But that person is like your favorite person, and you could walk this crazy journey together, or you be single.
Mm. So I agree with part of what you said. I 100% agree with the part where you said you have to know what you want and make sure you're prepared for it. So somebody I follow very, very closely, his name is Patrick Bet David. And he says that a man should never make any major decisions in his life until his age starts with a 3. Um, and I don't agree with that to the T, but I didn't, I hit a huge turning point for myself at age 29. I'm nowhere near, I'm a whole different dude than I was in 2011. And I've known not millions, but a lot of people my age who've been married. Only one of them are still together, and they had by far the longest relationship as a boyfriend and girlfriend in comparison to anybody than the other people. And both of those people were very, very, like, they worked hard on themselves in their relationship. And just me being how I am, like a winner in my mentality, for me, like, a divorce is an L. It doesn't mean you don't learn from it, but I don't, and you never know the future. Like, it's not something you know. It's simply a commitment. Like, everybody who jumps over that broom says that I'm going to rock out with you no matter what. And more often than not, from my experience and the national data for our culture, that commitment is free rapidly. And then I know other people, primarily a little bit older, who've been married for a long time and they ain't been happy in a long time, you know? So I think the thing is, like, you got to give yourself some time to know who you are and what you are, especially like what we always talk about in Game 7 is really like we ain't have no OGs. Like, so much of what we going through for the first time. Like, a lot of, like I knew about money, but when I first got my credit card in college, I don't regret it, but it was a stupid decision. I took my car to Best Buy and got a TV and a system in it for like $8,000. I could shake the whole block and we could watch TV, but like that was it, you know. As opposed to I was DJing, I could have bought some equipment, had some better stuff, raised my fees, and then I could have got on a payment plan, do a party every weekend. Boom, that could pay for my system and my TV and my car, you know. So just like me, I wasn't ready. And then also in my own personal life and people that I see in relationships, like while we're at this age, the young adult age, they usually end because one person keeps growing and the other person stops. And you don't really know when you or that other person will stop until you go through some things that you've never been through before, right? So I would say, like, when it's time, it's time. And I also believe if he or she truly loves you, I don't want to say they'll wait, but they'll rock out with you. Like, you'll have very, very transparent conversations about, all right, this is where I'm at with it, this is where you at with it, this is sacrifices I'm willing to make, sacrifices you're not willing to make. And you cannot lie during that conversation. Like, hurt the feelings just from the weight of the conversations instead of hurting the feelings later because you did not live up to the word that you gave to him or her during that conversation. You know? So the data says, and my personal experience says, more often than not, the marriages fail. And so many of these failures, like, I'm only 31. Like, we not 20 no more, but we're not that old. And there's so many things that we're just now going through. And then like, men and women, they want a man or woman that communicates. When they actually get it, they don't be prepared to handle it. Like, yo, what's up with you? What's going on? You got to be able to say what's up with you and what's going on, or be vulnerable enough to say, I don't know. Can you help me? Or maybe we should do therapy, or let's go on YouTube and talk about how to have, or Google how to have tough conversations with your husband or your wife. You know, so I believe, like, it's a journey. I believe that, like, marriage should be something that you reason inductively, not deductively. Like, people think they're going to get, and I've never been married, but I also don't believe that you have to be married to talk about marriage, because a lot of people that was married, they don't work out. So clearly, they ain't know. So maybe I was more knowledgeable by not taking that leap yet and not ended up taking the L that you or whoever else whoever this is applying to may have taken, you know. But I believe like both people, it should be something like, all right, we're here now, let's put the stamp on it, like we married, as opposed to saying we're married now and let's start doing married stuff. That's like we all wrote big papers, right? Like my whatever, I forgot the paper that when you write for your master's dissertation or whatever, it was on should college athletes be paid, right? But it didn't start off like that. It started off on the psychology of a college athlete, right? It's like you don't put the title first and then force it. You go on the journey, you see what the journey presents to you, then you put the title on it. But we feel so undervalued because we're only your boyfriend. We're only your girlfriend. Hey, there's some boyfriends out here that will treat you so much better than a husband ever will. It's just a word, right? Now there are benefits that come with making the husband and wife thing a true thing. But if you, her, whatever your situation is, are not ready for it, it's an L. And if you don't finish off with that person, although you did learn, you miss so many opportunities to be out there exploring and potentially find somebody else, or more importantly, find yourself first so you can find that somebody else. So that would be my thing, is like, all right, I don't know if necessarily after college, right after, but I do agree with the part like once you know what you want, once you know who you are, once you know who they are, whether that's 21, 31, or 41, then go ahead and do your thing. But don't force. I think people force it, especially women, because they feel like I'm just a girlfriend. Like, yo, no, you're not. Like, ask that man, if you really love him, you understand his heart. You feel me? What is he waiting on? Is he really waiting? Is there something that he think he doesn't give you, or that he does give you, or vice versa? And too many times we don't have those conversations. And a lot of times we don't have those conversations with our parents. That's something you touched on too. Or we do have them with parents who've never been in a healthy relationship with themselves, you know, or like parents who stayed together just for the kids and that broke them all up, like mentally, physically. Yo, maybe y'all should have been separate and y'all both could have loved us in your own ways. You would have got a better woman for you. You would have got a better man for you. And now I got 4 parents. I'm lit, you know, as opposed to, oh, we just got to keep the standard family structure together for the sake of having the family structure. So that would be my response to your response to that question.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm gonna jump in right quick. I firmly believe that you got to know yourself before you get into a situation like that. Because if you don't know yourself, how can you figure out a problem with someone else if you don't know yourself in some type of capacity? Obviously, every day your goal is to learn a little bit something about yourself, or discover yourself a little bit. But if you don't have a strong grip of who you are, it could definitely hinder your situation, right? And a lot of it is when you look at relationships, those are socially learned. Um, right? You have to learn how to love. You have to learn through experiences and things like that. And as we discussed on earlier, a lot of people don't have those examples growing up between a love between a man and a woman in an intimate way. They might have seen a grandma, mom, grandma, whatever. It's a lot of people haven't seen that love between that genuine love between like partners. So that's another thing that people have to take in consideration. And I definitely want to tap into what Malcolm said. Like, I often hear in both sides, well, I ain't doing that. That's something the wife would do. Like, yo, like, to me that's petty. And to me that's childish, right? Because if you're in a serious relationship with a man, woman, or whoever you want to be in a relationship with them, and you're holding back simply because you don't have that title, how in the heck are you supposed to get that title if you aren't doing things that title is supposed to do, right? Because you got to earn those privileges before you can get to that stage, right? Like you said after a couple of months, a man knows if he wants you or not. I agree with that. But a man also has to see how you handle yourself under pressure. a man also has to see how how you treat others. A man has to see how, if you're going through something, if you're going to project that on to him or give him, like, a man has to see what more value you can bring to the table. So of course, like, I'm not one to put on like a timeline of when it's right or right, a wrong time to get married. But to be honest, I think, from our society, that's a little bit more pressure with women, because it's from as a small child, Disney movies, princess, marriage, and becoming a woman is all things that, women long for. And for men, it's more so of like, yo, I got to get ahead. I'm trying to get this bread. Like, I'm gonna get married, but that's not the becoming of a man for me. So a lot of it with men and women is, you got to be on the same page. But more importantly, it's more, if a man wants you, he's gonna want you. Like, yeah, I can want someone, but if they don't also, like, I could want someone, but if they don't also check off all of these boxes, that doesn't mean you're gonna get that title, right? Like, it's something, like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's all about value being added, and if you are doing what you have to do, and you're having your responsibilities, and you're handling your inner turmoil, then that relationship should thrive, because you can do all the duties, and you still have the passion. So, for me, I just believe that, you know, a lot of people are looking into the title for sure. But with me, that privilege starts way before someone gets on a knee and someone says, I do. You got to earn that. That, to me, just like you said, that's a stamp, right? That's just making legally official. You combining things together, legally, right? But if that's who you want to be with, that has to start. You got to start being that before y'all get the title, because you just can't all of a sudden, all right, now we're married, let me flip the switch, and all of a sudden I'm gonna do these duties that I didn't do before. Heck no. That's not gonna work. That's just like, you don't turn the car on for months, and then all of a sudden, you manually wash the car because you reminded, like, I got this nice car outside, and then the battery's dead. It's not, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't work like that when you just want it to switch on. So, I'm gonna go on because I keep going about that.
I gotta jump in real quick. I have to, because it's really interesting, like hearing a man talk, or men talk about this. But one theme that I'm hearing is like women have to prove themselves or something. Well, if that's the case, and I get it, men also have to do the same thing. So if we're not going to accept the titles, then we shouldn't have any title, and we're just friends until we're married, right? Because what will happen is, I mean, if you really want to invest in something or someone, like, you're gonna put money down. That's just what it is. I feel like before marriage, you're just renting. Like, it's not a house. Like, you don't have any equity. It's nothing. You already know when you buy a house, you putting money down. If it's yours, it's yours. You can build on the land. The land can make you a lot of money, whatever. You can paint the walls if you want to. You don't have to worry about somebody else owning that. If you're renting, you can't do that. You're not going to have the same luxury. Somebody could tell you to get out when they want to, because you haven't invested. You're just really wasting money, wasting time. So I agree that you definitely have to know yourself, and I explained that coming in. But also, I don't suggest any woman be in a relationship longer than a year, because what else do you need to see? I think a man will know. And when he knows, he need to put money down. If not, then we friends.
See, I see what you're saying, but to me, it's more so of just like, it's more than just like, if you know what you want, right? Because when you're taking that step to marry someone, like, Now, if y'all backing out of it, you got to go through a lot of steps, right? So to me, I want to be fully prepared and have a plan before I go into something just because, oh, well, we've been dating for a year. And if you don't propose to me, then we done. Like to me, and respectfully, and I respect your point of view, but for me, that's an ultimatum. Like if it, you know what I mean? Like if we dating longer than a year and you ain't putting a ring on it, to me, that's gonna push away a man even more because one, obviously it's whatever reason he hasn't done that for you. He hasn't, and it for so many reasons. It's different reasons for men, right? It could be because they still are working on the inner turmoil themselves, right? Or the other person still needs to work on inner turmoil themselves, even if they don't want to acknowledge that they need to do some more work, right? So it's a two-way street. I'm not saying one person has to one side or the other. It's both sides have to be able to do that. But then also, only time will tell about someone's idea of fighting through adversity, right? So you can be in a relationship for somebody for a year and have little to no adversity, right? And then go through a year like this year where we have the pandemic, and then you are introduced to a whole new side of a person that you didn't know simply because you want to put a time frame on the amount of time that you've known someone, right? So to me, time in terms of relationships, yes, that's a factor, but just because I've been with someone for X amount of times, that doesn't mean it correlates to being ready to make that step because I don't think it's just as simple as, well, we've been together for this long, because I like, I mean, hypothetically, you could be with somebody for 6 months before they finally open up to you about a certain situation, right? And it all depends on how well you know someone, right? So it's all comfortability. How can you communicate? So if you're with someone for 8 months and then you found that for a year, and then you didn't learn until the 9th month that they struggle with XYZ because when they were a kid, this happened, but then you want me to marry you 2 months down the line because this is our year anniversary. Like, no, like I gotta learn more about that situation, right? Just like you talked about, this is an investment. I could look on the stock portfolio or a chart, and just because it's doing numbers and raising and it's matching resistant, and other people are doing that are doing that way and it working for them, that doesn't mean it's going to work for me. I got to do my research about what's going on at that stock. It doesn't matter if the research for someone else does this. I want to figure it out, this research on my own. So, I think it's a case by case thing. But ultimately, I feel like a bunch of that, just for me personally, unless it's just some crazy circumstances, I think that's a little bit too quick for me to pull the trigger for marriage after a year. And that could be because I'm a man, but and that could be my reasoning. But hey, that's just what I think.
You said pull a trigger.
No, that's what. No, I'm saying like pull the trigger on, like like not like that. I'm just saying like,
No, I got you. I got
yeah.
you. Hey, I mean, I respect it. I respect it. But you shouldn't have kids then before.
Oh, no kids here.
Oh, goodness. Some
I'm 30 years old. No kids for me. I'm chilling.
people would rather have children but don't want to get married. Like you can get a divorce, but children you're gonna have forever with that person. So
Well, that's me, but I'm cool with that. Like I'm happy that because at least with the kid, if you're a good father, you got a good kid. You got the kid. With the divorce, I ain't been divorced. You just got the L, right? But what I'm hearing is like, yo, number one, it's just a title. You can call it friend or whatever you want to do. If you got a good man, you know he's not playing with you. If you got a good woman, you know she's not playing with you, right? But Like, what kind of person are you coming into the relationship? Like, a lot of people, like they're coming to a relationship looking for happiness. Can nobody else make you happy? Happiness is on you as an individual, and it's actually a responsibility, right? So there's oftentimes a healing process, right? Like, love has to be developed. So say both people coming in raw, because I believe like in not gender roles but relationship roles. Like in every relationship there's roles, but the roles in this relationship may be different than the roles in this relationship, right? But I do believe, like generally speaking, the man should be the leader. However, that must be earned, and the woman must learn how to follow that lead, right? Must be earned. You don't get it just because you got the parts. That's not what I'm saying at all, right? Um, but it also on the other side, it has to be learned. And then let's say, are you really prepared for the man or the woman that you wanted, right? Oh, I want a strong man. Yo, he's going to expect you to be a strong woman, whether that's mentally, physically, some combination of both. I want a man that has money. Unless he just up and he like that, he's going to expect you to generate some kind of revenue. I want a loving man who's emotionally grounded. He's going to want the same thing for you, and in the other way for whatever women want, right? And those things take time, right? And just because you don't have the ring, that can be taken back, or y'all can take it back or whatever, or have those papers that can be signed off and taken back later. Like they're just things that can easily be removed. That does not mean that you and her, you and him are not working toward that path, right? So it's not just a man thing, it's not just a woman thing. It's both parties that go together. And I think clearly, once again, like the data is saying that we, whoever these we are, these couples, we're moving too fast, right? And I know I can't say no names, but I know some people, some men that took that knee because they got the pressure and they ain't doing good now, right? And that's not everybody. I'm talking about the ones that I know, but they wasn't ready. But they wanted that woman bad enough that they was ready, that they was willing to go through that process when their heart wasn't in it, because that woman wanted to be married, right? And then they end up losing that relationship overall, right? Now they can go on to a new one and be happy. Maybe they come back later, but I just think that I think maybe we're saying the same thing. You just have to complete that process, right? Whatever the process is that leads up to it, you have to complete it. And I can see you, Portia, like you make a decision, you do it. I don't know how everybody's different in their relationship. I don't know how you are as a woman in your intimate relationship, but I know how you are. Everybody's not like that. Everybody's not like that. You can say 365, this is what we got. I'm going to counseling, I'm doing this. You going at it for 365. Everybody ain't like that. They say 365 and they can go two. And they're used to getting away with two the entire life from their previous man, their previous woman, and they expect to hear. Oh, I want somebody in my relationship that holds me accountable. Then they hold you accountable, and now you're arguing. Oh, why are you doing that? You ain't my mom, you ain't my dad. Yo, I'm your man, or I'm your girl that you say you want to be your husband or your wife. I should be able to hold you accountable, and you should do it. Or if I'm not aligned, it should go the other way too, right? But until people develop that, and that may take 366 days, that may take 730 days, that may take 1460 days, years and years and years and years. But the people that work through that process, those are the ones that stick it out, right? And it ain't a money thing. You can ask Jeff Bezos, ask Bill Gates. Only reason Warren Buffett ain't in there, he got two girls. He got his wife, and his wife got him a girlfriend, you know? So it ain't got nothing to do with, ask Dr. Dre. It ain't got nothing to do with money, fame, financial security. It has everything to do with their relationship. And I don't know if I'm just getting older and noticing now, but it seems like so much more people are getting divorced 20 and 30 years down the road. You know, I don't know if that's just something that I'm seeing, but it's like, yo, it's like all different ages, everybody fair game. But that just tells me, and I don't judge myself off of other people, but clearly, obviously, I study people. I study relationships. And relationships fall apart because there's inner turmoil in one party or both, and one party or both are not working together individually to overcome that. And there's expectations that are not met. And there's even worse, there's expectations that are not communicated. So you're like drowning in silence. And to get to that level to where you can have those kind of conversations, that takes time because you may be coming from a SHI blank blank Y relationship where you didn't have that. And it took you some time to get used to that. And that man had to break down your wall, your emotional wall for 365 days just to get there to find out what's going on. Then you start that process. But 5 years later, when you're still not married, this dude fought with me through all this for 5 years. You feel me? And I fought with him for through all this for 5 years. Though I ain't been there yet, but those are the ones that when the woman walked down the aisle, he's crying like crazy because they worked so hard to get there. He heard, why you dragging her along? That's just your friend. You broke, you ain't got no money. Why you ain't got no house? But he held it down. He was a freaking dog for his relationship. And on the other side, the woman did everything that she had to do, right? But that took their amount of time, and they put the work in. So I think the key is have a process. More importantly, have somebody who's willing to go through that process with you and is willing to, because it can't just be you. Like it can't be like, yo, Mount, you gotta do this, and this. Then that person's gonna get what they want. You're not gonna get what you want. It has to be what we want. A lot of relationships be like this, but this falls apart easily. People don't take the time to get like this to where they're not gonna break. But that takes longer than 365 days, oftentimes. If you're putting in the work, if you're coming in that mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially healthy. And that's normally not the case, especially in the African American community. So we don't take this from education to relationships and marriage, but I think it's turning into a pretty powerful conversation. What you say? My mom, I appreciate the diverse perspectives, transparent conversations. That's what we do. All right, so we're gonna leave our counseling room and move on to our next question. So you are a creator. Oh, this is the last one. You are a creator, investor, and entrepreneur. So tell us about your ventures. Tell us about some of your ventures. What you got going
on? It's funny that last line, polygamy, popped up. That's a book that I want to write. I haven't started writing it yet, but I pretty much know what it's going to be about, and it's definitely connected to the conversation we just had. And I'm going to explain the book in a few sentences. I feel like in relationships, if you have to know yourself, and if you don't know yourself, you should communicate that head on. It's going to be difficult, but you have to let people know where you are. Because we can save each other a lot of time, a lot of heartache, all of that. But I feel like before marriage that we're all in polygamous relationships. We are. When you decide not to marry, but you're talking to me and then you're talking to her and you're talking to this person, you're in relationships with everybody. So technically we're in polygamous relationships. So that's going to be like the foundation of my book. I'm a firm supporter of marriage. I feel like you could get married in 6 months. And I say all that to say, my father marries all of his women. So that's my foundation. I'm sticking to it. I hear what you all are saying. I respect it from a male perspective. But I also have brothers that have a father who they marry their women. And it is what it is. I feel like before marriage, you're dating, and it should be stated as such. This boyfriend, girlfriend thing, what is that? We're friends. We're friends or we're married. And I think we should communicate like that because it creates gray areas. And I don't do well with gray areas. I need to know if either it is or it's not. Anytime we're mixed up, it just creates heartache, pain that you could have avoided. Married people, they make a decision. Marriage is a decision that's made every day. Typically people, their first marriage, they marry for love until they realize this is a business because you're securing yourself, you're loving yourself. And if you have respect for yourself, you're going to set an expectation, and it may be too high for people, but that'll push all the people who plan, it'll push them away. So my expectation is marriage, and I'm going to say 6 months because that's just my expectation. If you can't adhere to it, then don't. But that saves me a lot of trouble. So that's what polygamy is about. That's a book. And then So I Got Divorced is also a book that I've started writing really during my marriage when I realized, yeah, this is not going to work. And that was like in 2017, I made the decision. And instead of leaving the marriage because I wasn't done yet, like I had to really learn what my lessons were because that's what marriage, that's what it is. It brings two people together and you see yourself. That's what it is. So if you're afraid of yourself, or you don't know yourself yet, don't get married because that's all you're going to see is you. And you have to remember that your partner is your partner. Like we're working together. So when things get a little shaky, you got to ask yourself, what did I do wrong? You got to always ask yourself that. So I Got Divorced is about my process, and really understanding how powerful divorce is, just the word itself. Because I've divorced from a lot of things within my first marriage and first divorce. Not only did I divorce from a person, by law. You know, I divorced from habits that I should have been divorced from, but I wasn't ready until I got into a marriage. Was able to see myself. So yes, I'm a writer. I write all the time, and I'll be publishing a few books. My goal was to have So I Got Divorced published by last year, but it's okay. I'm being flexible with myself, patient with myself. Hopefully, it'll drop by December of this year. Um, Numerology and spirituality. So I stepped into my spirituality, I'll say, in 2013. And this is really deep, but I started to look at myself as a system, and really got to know myself on levels that I didn't learn as a child. So I was raised as a Christian. I went to church every Sunday, Bible study Wednesday. My father did not play about this. We had to go. We had to learn the word. We had to follow the scripture and be thankful for what we have. But growing into an adult as a mother, a wife, I took a different approach to things and I started to study what most may deem as not religious. So I wanted to see the other side of religion and I tapped into spirituality. And this is where I really found myself. So that can look like a lot of different things. One specifically, I study and I practice yoga and I try to teach that in full body healing to women, my children, family. As far as numerology, I'm a mathematician. I love numbers. My parents love numbers. I study numbers for fun. I count for fun. But I also, through my spirituality journey, I've learned that numerology also connects to that. And this is probably why I'm really excited about math. I love teaching it. I get really hyped when students like math. I'm definitely a nerd, but numerology is life, numbers is life, math is life, which then connects to mathematics. So I'm a math educator. I coach adults and I kind of teach adults math because most teachers don't really know how to teach it. Um, they give answers and I teach the process to the teachers so that they can teach students. I teach students how to love numbers and how to read into the patterns, how to pay attention to the signs. I'm an artist. Uh, I draw. I love fashion. I'm a hairstylist. I create my own hair and skin products. They're in stores. So I got the Juice brand is the name of it. And these are my products I use every day. So hairspray. The bottle is kind of messed up because I use it every day. It stays in my purse. Um, oh, here we go. So you can go to my website or you can go to Browns Market, District Heights, Maryland to buy my products. So I'm a chemist. I stay in the kitchen. I love to cook. I like remodeling. So this weekend I'll be painting, taking a look at my son's floor that I started last year and didn't get to finish because I'm also a single mother of 3 children. So you can only imagine I have so many different projects that I need to finish, but I have a child-free weekend this weekend, so I'm taking time to do that. And I'm also an event planner. So I host Life of Peace socials. So I have one June 19th. where I'm bringing at least 20 women together and we're working on healing practices. We're going to have fun, just really connecting with ourselves, showing off, exercising, being our true selves. And my hope is that this could then build my community and create better wives so you all can change our mind about getting married at 50. So yeah, I'm working with women so we can be better wives and be better support systems so that we can build a stronger community. And I believe it starts at home. And because of the way I think, I feel like I am a pretty balanced woman and I know how to talk to a man. I know how to care for a man. Shout out to my father because he taught me that, and my mother because she's like awesome and she was married for so many years, like at least 20 years, had six children, never cheated on my father, really stayed down. Um, and she's a stay-at-home wife now. So like she's awesome. But I want to make sure I bring that to my community so people could know women can learn how to be soft again. Because I feel like everybody's perception of relationships and marriage and children, I think what it's doing is making women hard. Um, and we're becoming manly. And I don't think that's how it should go because then we're also stopping creation, you know? So women become men, now they're dating women. And no offense, no shade to anybody. I'm not against whatever makes you happy. Love is love. But we still need to, bear fruit. So in order to do that, women have to be softer because that's how we were made, you know. But we're now put in positions to be protectors, and you got to be hard to do that sometimes. That's what men are for. So I really want us to, get back in formation. Men are men, women are women, and we come together, we build very strong communities. And yeah, we're in love, but also in marriage. Like, I don't give these wifely things out to your friend. You can't do that because that's just not high quality. So I breed high quality women. I'm connected to high quality women. And I have an event in August that will connect the masculine male with the feminine woman. So I'm trying to do it.
Nice, nice. You got a lot going on. Um, and one thing I also want to start doing before we leave is I would like to challenge our guests. So I'm going to challenge you to do things like this more. Like I would listen to you. Like if you were just on YouTube, just rapping, like doing like a vlog or a soliloquy or whatever, relationships, school, math, whatever, I would listen. And I've seen you with people. You're very good with people. You're not very good, it seems like, with people who BS, right? You're not really good with those kind of people. But you're good with the people who want to be there and you have a lot of knowledge. And just your cadence, your voice. I think you do have an avenue in speaking, not necessarily speaking like a speech, but just you know talking and using the gifts that you have. Have you ever heard of what's her name, Danica Marie? You ever seen her YouTube?
No,
I'll send it to you. But I watched her from the very very beginning, just a couple years ago. She's got hundreds of thousands of followers now, but she's got like the clickbait topics that are not really clickbait. It's like she's a controversial person. Um, like the women say she's too she's too pro man. She does a lot of things about relationships. But you remind me of her. And I think that there's an avenue there for you. So I would challenge you to use your gifts. And there was a study at Stanford by a professor of the name Dr. Kelly McGonigal. And she went around the country, all these different places. And she came to the conclusion that the two most powerful fears in America are math and public speaking. And you've conquered both. So I'm gonna challenge you to use that gift. We appreciate you. It was dope as I thought it would be. We definitely got to get you on some more, and we'll talk about other things that we can do in a different capacity. I ain't going to talk about the text that you told me that you're working on, but I'm excited to see where that goes. And if you're doing it, I'm pretty sure it'll turn out. It's just a matter of when. So I appreciate you. KG, I appreciate you. Viewers, I appreciate you. And we will see you Sunday when I still haven't decided on what we're talking about. But we're going to be here Sunday, 9 a.m. Peace out.